Good morning, genealogy friends. Happy Wednesday. I apologize right now. I will probably apologize again and again. I sound terrible and I know it. My cold decided to stick around. So the funny thing is I actually do sound better as the day goes on. So I thought about putting this off, but you know what? We're just going to get through it together. I have new pages at the shop today. This supplement bundle is currently in the shop. I have other pages that are going to be in the shop in the next half hour. I just didn't quite get them up in time for the live. Hit a little bit of traffic this morning. But I wanted to put the census supplement up, and then I wanted to talk about how to use the census supplement pages, because I've put together this 3-page bundle that goes along with the census, and these are pages that I've been using. I've been a little hesitant to put them up for sale because they are not exactly intuitive. They're not complicated. It's just, they're not the kind of pages that you can just look at and immediately know why you would need them. So let's talk about that. I'm going to flip this around. Good morning. Let's move this. I also have lost my table. My children are having a moment in my front room. So I'm working in the most professional of spaces right now. Okay, so the first page in the new census supplement bundle is the census continuation page. This is the one that is very self-explanatory. At the bottom of the census pages, I've got this field, other notable people in the dwelling. That is based off of the language that I use for the U.S. Census, but all of these pages could be used for any census. This page you would use if you had more people in that census that you wanted to note that were in the household than the worksheet that I've created gives you space for. Some of us have those families where everybody had 12 children and somehow they magically just all lived together forever, and so each census page you got to squish everybody in. That's what this page is for. So this is the one that is kind of self-explanatory. Now contrast that to this page. This is the second page in the bundle, census notable people. So this one is other notable people in the dwelling. So these are other people that are living with whoever you're putting, whoever's chapter you're working on. This one is notable people nearby on the census. See, there's a field up here for you to write in the census year. And then this would go into the chapter of an ancestor, and this is where you would list people that were living nearby that you might want to remember, hey, so-and-so is on that census. Now, why would you care? This is one of those things where I feel like I have to really sell you on this because I feel like this is important, but obviously if you're just focusing on your ancestor, why would you care about anybody else's household? Well, this is when we go back to the idea of fan research, friends, associates, and neighbors. Historically, people lived near people, sometimes for a long time, and even if it was for a short time, the people that they were living near, often they had another relationship with. Now, maybe that means that because they became neighbors, they became friends and they became involved in business, or they became involved in other things. And very often it was the other way around, where they had a relationship and therefore lived near people. So that's when you've got, siblings and in-laws and people who are living, on pieces of family land that have been broken up, and so they're living next to each other. And so these are not people that are going to be in the household of your ancestor, but they're going to be nearby on the census. For some examples here, in the little sample one, I've got a maternal cousin, a maternal uncle, and then these are people who aren't related. This is somebody who was a witness on a marriage certificate, somebody who was a seller in a land purchase document. Now, when I do census research, I always look at the 10 heads of household in either direction from the ancestor's household that I'm looking at. That means that, if I find my great-grandmother on the census, I'm going to look at the 10 households that are listed before her and the 10 households that are listed after her, because that gives me 20 different households to look for things like names that are significant, names that I have seen on other documents. if I find somebody listed near her that I have seen, listed as a witness in a marriage, or I've seen listed as a witness to a legal contract or something like that, that suggests a more, a bigger connection. Let me flip this around. It feels weird sometimes when I'm making you guys just look at paper that doesn't really say anything. So why would you want to track whether or not somebody was a witness on a marriage certificate and living near your ancestor? I mean, if they're a witness to your ancestor's marriage, then obviously they had a connection. Why does it matter that this person's also in the census? The thing is, when you have people who show up again and again, when you're sort of collecting the names for the family, for the friends, associates, neighbors research, the fan research, sometimes when you've got brick walls, doing some research on records where those people show up can unlock doors. Because if those people are showing up on your ancestor's paperwork, your ancestor may be showing up on their paperwork. There may be joint paperwork where maybe your ancestor's name wasn't transcribed correctly, or maybe they used your initials or something like that, but it's something that touches your ancestor's life, but you would only find it by researching this person who's in the fan network. That's why you want to pay attention. If somebody's showing up again and again on the census and shows up on a couple of other records, that's somebody that I'm going to want to like take a look at. That's, when they talk about genealogy standards, one of the first genealogy standards is to make sure that you're doing reasonably exhaustive research. That means that you do have to think outside the box sometime and not just focus on records that have your ancestor clearly listed. You have to think about, okay, but really in a social context, in a political, in a financial context, like, are these people going to be, what paper would these people be found on, and why would these people be thrown together? This is especially true for people who, if you're looking at the census and you've got a lot of people who immigrated, and your ancestor is an immigrant, and they seem to be living around a lot of immigrants, those people might have actually come over with them. They might have been part of the people who came over at different times from the same location. So you might have more of a connection than as a parent when you're just looking at the census. Another time that you could use this is when you have a household where not everybody's necessarily in the family, but, and so you might not want to list them as being in a household. That can be true if you've got a census where your ancestor was a lodger or a boarder. My great-grandmother grew up in an orphanage, and so on one of the census pages, she's listed with all the other orphans, and it makes sense for me to keep track of those names and see if they come up again. So the third page in the census bundle is the census person profile. Now, again, this is very specific, and you don't necessarily need this or any of these pages, but what this is for is if you have somebody who shows up on the census and they're notable, but you don't want to necessarily make them a friend page or a partner page or something like that. You just want to note that this was the person on the census, that this name has come up before, that maybe you have some information about that. And this is a great way to sort of put a bookmark on some of this census information if you're not ready to necessarily dig into it right then, but you don't want to forget what you know about this person. So in this sample, I've highlighted somebody who is nearby one of my great-grandparents in the census, and highlighted the information about her, but then also added this photo and some of the notes that I know about her. Now, for my great-grandparents lived in in a little fishing village in San Rafael on this beach, and so when you look at the census, the fact that these people were their neighbors, that means a lot more than I live in the suburbs of Salt Lake City, and I'm wildly introverted. Which may surprise some of you who see me talking online a lot. My husband's wildly introverted. Not surprising, we barely know our neighbors. We've lived here for a long time. We wave at them, we smile, and then we scurry back into our house because we're introverted. For my great-grandparents, the people that they lived in that fishing village were practically family. The kids all grew up together. They all helped each other out. When the war hit, they all supported each other. Everything was shared. Everything was, it was very, we're all going to float or we're all going to sink. And so looking at these people just on the census, this list of names that I'm not related to might seem like it's nothing, but those are people that were very important in their community. And so therefore it makes them very important in their life story. And it makes sense that they show up again and again in other records. So that's what the census supplement pages are. If you have more questions about them, because again, I feel like this is, you know, slightly higher level research to be looking at other people on the census, but if you've got more questions, leave them in the comments. I could even record this video again when I don't sound like this. So yeah, and then I'll tell you, so I'm going to go into the other room and I'm going to list these right now. So in about a half hour, there will also be awards, brownies, highlights, infamous, magazine, and occupation of Japan. Those pages will all be listed in my shop. If you're part of the Family Tree Notebooks Genealogy Facebook group, sorry, I decide if I need to clear my throat or that's just gonna make it worse. If you're part of the Family Tree Notebooks Genealogy Facebook group, you might have noticed that I put up a list of, we talked about this last time, I think. I put up a list of pages. Yeah, this is what we talked about last time. And so I'm going to be taking the pages that I have finished off of that list, and I'm going to be updating with new pages that people have requested. So if you've got requests, go ahead and leave them there. Do I have anything else to tell you? No. I have something special planned for Halloween. I'm actually not going to be live on Halloween, but I will have a video for you. At the time that I would normally be live, I will be watching my kids parade around their school in Halloween costumes, and I wouldn't miss that for the world. So, yeah. But I have a video planned. Something a little, not spooky, maybe a little creepy genealogy for the holiday weekend. Anyway, that's all for me. Thank you for bearing with me when I sound absolutely ridiculous and I'm surrounded by 4 million Barbies. I really appreciate it, and I will try very hard to, you know, be a little more professional the next time we see each other. Bye.